I'm about to reveal 6 simple food hacks that can drop your blood sugar by 30, 40, even 50 points within hours. Not medications, not complicated meal plans, just 6 simple tricks with foods you probably already have in your kitchen right now. After years in operating rooms seeing the devastating complications of uncontrolled diabetes, amputated legs, failed kidneys, hearts destroyed by years of high blood sugar, I've learned something most doctors never tell their diabetic patients. It's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat it, when you eat it, and what you combine it with. What I'm about to share goes against conventional diabetic advice you've probably heard for years. Your doctor might have told you to count carbs and take your medications, but they probably never explained these 6 powerful strategies that can transform your blood sugar control, starting with your very next meal. The pharmaceutical companies certainly don't want you to know this, because these free food hacks can reduce your need for expensive medications. But I've seen them work, patient after patient, blood sugar reading after blood sugar reading, and I refuse to keep this information hidden any longer. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to use these 6 food hacks, why they work at a cellular level, and most importantly, how to implement them immediately to start seeing lower numbers on your glucose meter. This isn't about deprivation or suffering. This is about eating smarter, not less. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could save your life, your vision, your kidneys, and your legs. Before we begin, an important disclaimer. The information I'm sharing today is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. I am not your personal physician. Never stop, start, or change any medication or diabetes treatment plan without first consulting with your doctor. Never ignore professional medical advice because of something you learned in this video. Every person's diabetes is unique, and what I discuss here may not apply to your specific circumstances. Always work with your healthcare provider to make decisions about your diabetes management. Let's start with food hack number 6, and this one is going to surprise you because it involves something you've probably been told to avoid completely. Food hack number 6, vinegar before meals. Yes, vinegar. That simple, cheap ingredient sitting in your pantry right now has the power to lower your post-meal blood sugar spike by 20 to 30%. But not just any vinegar used anyway. The timing, the type, and the amount all matter enormously. Let me tell you about Robert, a 68-year-old man with type 2 diabetes who was struggling despite doing everything his doctor told him. Robert was taking metformin twice daily. He was counting carbs religiously. He'd cut out sweets almost entirely. But his fasting blood sugar was still hovering around 160, and after meals it would spike to 220, 240, sometimes even 260. His A1C, that 3-month average measure of blood sugar control, was stuck at 8.2. His doctor wanted to add insulin, but Robert was terrified of needles. Robert's daughter had read something about vinegar and diabetes. She bought him a bottle of apple cider vinegar and told him to try taking a tablespoon before his meals. Robert was skeptical. How could something so simple, something that cost $3 at the grocery store, make any difference when his prescription medications weren't even working well enough? But he was desperate. So he started taking 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, diluted in a small glass of water, about 10 to 15 minutes before his 2 largest meals of the day, lunch and dinner. He continued everything else exactly the same. Same medications, same diet, same exercise routine. The only change was the vinegar. Within 3 days, he noticed something. His post-lunch blood sugar, which normally spiked to 230 or higher, was coming in at 180. Still elevated, but significantly lower. After a week, his morning fasting glucose had dropped from 160 to 142. After 2 weeks, his post-meal spikes were consistently 40 to 50 points lower than they had been. His glucose meter readings looked like someone else's numbers. He couldn't believe it. At his next doctor's appointment 3 months later, his A1C had dropped from 8.2 to 7.1. His doctor was stunned. "What did you change?" he asked. When Robert told him about the vinegar, his doctor was skeptical at first, but he couldn't argue with the results. Robert had avoided insulin. He'd regained hope. All from a $3 bottle of vinegar. How can something so simple be so powerful? Let me explain the mechanism, because understanding how this works will help you use it correctly. Vinegar, specifically the acetic acid in vinegar, does several remarkable things in your body that directly combat high blood sugar. First, it slows down the digestion of starches. When you eat carbohydrates like bread, rice, pasta, or potatoes, enzymes in your digestive system break those starches down into sugar. That sugar then floods into your bloodstream, causing your blood glucose to spike dramatically. Acetic acid interferes with the enzymes that break down starches. It's like putting a speed bump in the digestion highway. The carbohydrates still get digested and absorbed, but much more slowly. This means instead of getting a massive sugar spike all at once, you get a slower, more gradual rise that your body can handle much better. Second, vinegar improves insulin sensitivity. This is huge. In type 2 diabetes, the fundamental problem isn't usually that you don't produce insulin. It's that your cells have become resistant to insulin. They don't respond to it properly. Insulin is like a key that unlocks your cells to let glucose in. But in insulin resistance, it's like the locks are jammed. Acetic acid helps unjam those locks. It makes your cells more responsive to insulin, which means the insulin you do produce works more effectively. Studies have proven this effect. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care showed that taking vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal improved insulin sensitivity by 19 to 34% in people with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. Another study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that vinegar reduced the blood sugar spike after eating white bread by 31%. But here's what's critical. Not all vinegar is the same, and how you take it matters enormously. Apple cider vinegar seems to be the most studied and potentially the most effective, though regular white vinegar also works. The key is the acetic acid content, which should be around 5%. Most standard vinegars have this. The dose matters. Studies typically use 1 to 2 tablespoons. Less than that might not be enough to see an effect. More than that doesn't seem to provide additional benefit and can cause problems like tooth enamel erosion or throat irritation. The timing is crucial. You need to take it 10 to 20 minutes before your meal, not with your meal or after. This gives the acetic acid time to start working in your digestive system before the food arrives. If you take it with your food, you miss the optimal window. And you must dilute it. Never drink vinegar straight. It's too acidic and can damage your esophagus and tooth enamel. Mix 1 to 2 tablespoons in a full glass of water. Some people add a tiny bit of honey to make it more palatable, though be mindful that honey contains sugar. Start with 1 tablespoon to see how your body tolerates it. Some people experience mild digestive upset initially. If 1 tablespoon works well, you can increase to 2 tablespoons for potentially stronger effects. Comment below if you've tried vinegar for blood sugar control. Type vinegar user and let me know if you saw results. I want to know how many of you have experienced this. Now let's move to food hack number 5. And this one involves the order in which you eat the foods on your plate. Food hack number 5. Eat your vegetables first, protein second, carbs last. This simple change in eating sequence can reduce your post-meal blood sugar spike by up to 40% without changing what you eat at all. Same foods, same portions. Completely different blood sugar response just by changing the order. Let me tell you about Susan, a 71-year-old woman with type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetic blood sugar control issues. Susan loved food. She wasn't willing to give up eating the foods she enjoyed. Rice, potatoes, bread, these were staples in her diet and part of her cultural heritage. Her doctor kept telling her to cut carbs, but she struggled. She felt deprived. She felt like she was being punished. Her blood sugar numbers reflected her struggle. After meals, her glucose would spike to 200, 210, sometimes 220. She was on metformin and a sulfonylurea medication, but they weren't controlling her spikes adequately. Her doctor suggested adding more medication. Susan felt like a failure. Then she attended a diabetes education class where a nutritionist mentioned something interesting. Food order matters. The nutritionist explained a study from Japan showing that eating vegetables before carbohydrates significantly reduced blood sugar spikes. Susan was intrigued. This wasn't about giving up foods. This was just about rearranging them. Susan started a simple routine. At every meal, she would eat all her vegetables first. Her salad, her cooked greens, her vegetable side dishes, everything green and non-starchy went first. She'd eat them completely before touching anything else. Then she'd eat her protein, her chicken, her fish, her eggs, her beans. She'd finish the protein completely. Only after the vegetables and protein were gone would she start eating her rice or bread or potatoes. The results were immediate and dramatic. Her post-meal blood sugars that had been spiking to 200 plus started coming in at 150, 160, sometimes even 140. Same foods, same portions, just different order. She was eating the exact same plate of food, but her glucose response was completely different. After 3 months of this eating sequence strategy, her A1C dropped from 7.8 to 6.9. She hadn't added any medications. She hadn't eliminated any foods she loved. She'd just rearranged them on her fork. It felt too simple to be true, but her glucose meter didn't lie. Why does this work? The mechanism is fascinating and involves the complex interaction between different nutrients in your digestive system. When you eat vegetables first, especially non-starchy vegetables high in fiber, like leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, you're creating a protective barrier in your digestive tract. Fiber from vegetables forms a physical mesh in your intestines. When carbohydrates arrive later, they have to pass through this fiber mesh to reach the intestinal wall, where they get absorbed into your bloodstream. This slows down carbohydrate absorption dramatically. Instead of a flood of glucose hitting your bloodstream all at once, you get a slow, steady trickle. Your pancreas can keep up. Your insulin can do its job effectively without being overwhelmed. Additionally, vegetables and protein trigger the release of hormones called incretins, specifically GLP-1 and GIP. These hormones do several beneficial things. They slow down stomach emptying, which means food stays in your stomach longer before moving to your intestines. They stimulate insulin secretion from your pancreas. And they suppress glucagon, a hormone that raises blood sugar. When you eat vegetables and protein first, you're priming your body with these beneficial hormones before the carbohydrates arrive. The research supporting this is substantial. A study published in Diabetes Care examined people with type 2 diabetes eating the same meal in different orders. When they ate vegetables and protein before carbohydrates, their post-meal blood sugar was 29% lower at 30 minutes and 37% lower at 60 minutes, compared to when they ate carbohydrates first. Another study at Weill Cornell Medical College found that eating vegetables and protein before carbohydrates reduced the post-meal glucose spike by 73% compared to eating carbohydrates first. 73%. That's a massive difference from such a simple change. The practical application is straightforward. At every meal, structure your eating this way. First, eat all your non-starchy vegetables. Take your time, chew thoroughly, finish them completely before moving on. Second, eat all your protein. Your meat, fish, eggs, tofu, legumes. Again, finish completely. Third and finally, eat your carbohydrates. Your rice, bread, pasta, potatoes. This works whether you're eating at home, at a restaurant, or at a family gathering. You don't need special foods. You don't need to change your menu. You just need to change your fork's route around the plate. One caveat: if you're on medications that lower blood sugar, especially insulin or sulfonylureas, this strategy can work so well that you might experience low blood sugar if your medication dose isn't adjusted. Monitor your glucose carefully and discuss this with your doctor. You may need lower medication doses, which is actually a good thing, but it needs to be done under medical supervision. Comment if you're going to try this food order strategy. Type vegetables first so I can see how many of you are implementing this today. Before we continue with the next food hacks, including one that involves something you probably drink every morning, I want to make a quick request. If what you've heard so far seems valuable, if you're learning practical strategies you can implement immediately, I'm asking for 2 simple actions. First, consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. My mission is to provide clear, actionable health information based on clinical experience and current research, so you can take control of your diabetes and your health. Information that often doesn't get discussed in your brief doctor visits. Information that could genuinely change your life. Second, and perhaps more important, please share this video. Think about your friends, your family members, anyone you know struggling with diabetes or prediabetes. How many people could benefit from knowing these simple food hacks? A simple share can start a conversation that could genuinely transform someone's health. It takes 2 seconds, but could change their entire future. And if you want to go even deeper into diabetes management, I've created something special for this community. I'm working on a comprehensive ebook about blood sugar control, diabetes management, and heart health for people over 60. It's going to contain everything I wish I could tell every diabetic patient in detail: the complete protocols, the monitoring strategies, the food combinations that work, the exercise approaches, everything. If you want to be notified when it's ready and receive exclusive health information I can't fit into videos, join my free newsletter. The link is in the description below. No spam, no selling, just valuable information delivered straight to you. I send updates on the latest research, answer common questions from the community, and share practical tips you can use immediately to manage your blood sugar better. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Let's continue with food hack number 4. And this one involves timing your meals in a way most diabetics never consider. Food hack number 4. Never eat carbohydrates alone. Always pair them with protein, fat, or fiber. This single strategy can reduce your blood sugar spike by 30 to 50% compared to eating carbohydrates by themselves. Let me tell you about James, a 74-year-old retired accountant with type 2 diabetes. James loved his morning routine. He'd wake up, have a cup of coffee, and eat 2 slices of toast with jam. Simple, quick, delicious. But his morning blood sugar would spike from 130 when he woke up to 210 2 hours after breakfast, every single morning. His doctor kept adjusting his medications, but nothing seemed to fix those morning spikes. James's daughter, who was a nurse, suggested something different. "Dad, don't eat the toast alone. Add some protein." She convinced him to add 2 eggs to his breakfast. Same toast, same jam, but now with 2 scrambled eggs alongside. The next morning, James checked his blood sugar 2 hours after this modified breakfast. Instead of 210, it read 165. He thought it was a fluke. He tried again the next day. Same result, 162. The day after, 158. Adding eggs to his toast had reduced his post-breakfast spike by 45 to 50 points consistently. He was amazed. He called his daughter. "It's just eggs," he said. "How can eggs make such a difference?" She explained the science, and it made perfect sense once he understood it. Here's what happens when you eat carbohydrates alone. Let's say you eat a piece of bread, a bowl of rice, or a banana by itself. Those carbohydrates are digested relatively quickly. They break down into glucose rapidly. That glucose floods into your bloodstream fast. Your blood sugar spikes dramatically. Your pancreas has to release a huge burst of insulin to try to handle this glucose flood. Over time, this pattern of huge spikes followed by insulin surges damages your body. It worsens insulin resistance. It strains your pancreas. It increases inflammation throughout your body. But when you pair carbohydrates with protein, fat, or fiber, everything changes. These other nutrients slow down digestion dramatically. Protein takes longer to break down than carbohydrates. Fat slows stomach emptying. Fiber creates physical barriers to absorption. The result is that your carbohydrates get released into your bloodstream much more slowly and steadily. Instead of a spike, you get a gentle hill. Instead of overwhelming your system, you give your body time to handle the glucose properly. Your blood sugar rises more gradually, peaks at a lower level, and comes down more smoothly. Your pancreas doesn't have to work as hard. Your insulin is more effective. Your cells are happier. The research supporting this is extensive. Studies show that adding protein to a carbohydrate meal can reduce the glycemic response by 30 to 40%. Adding healthy fats can reduce it by 20 to 30%. Combining all 3, carbohydrates with protein, fat, and fiber, creates the optimal response. Let me give you practical examples of how to apply this. Never eat fruit alone as a snack. Fruit is healthy and contains important nutrients, but it's primarily carbohydrates and natural sugars. If you eat an apple or a banana by itself, you'll get a blood sugar spike. Instead, pair that apple with a handful of almonds or a tablespoon of peanut butter. Pair that banana with some Greek yogurt. The protein and fat from the nuts or yogurt will slow down the fruit sugar absorption dramatically. Never eat bread or toast alone. Always add protein. Eggs are perfect. Cheese works well. Nut butter is excellent. Even a slice of turkey or ham makes a huge difference. That morning toast that spikes your blood sugar to 200 when eaten alone might only raise it to 150 or 160 when eaten with eggs. Never eat rice or pasta as a standalone meal. Always include a substantial portion of protein. Chicken, fish, beef, tofu, beans, whatever protein source you prefer. And add vegetables for fiber. A bowl of white rice alone will spike your blood sugar terribly. But white rice with grilled chicken and a large serving of broccoli will produce a much more moderate response. Even something as simple as crackers or pretzels as a snack becomes much safer when paired with cheese or hummus. The carbohydrates from the crackers are still there, but they're buffered by the protein and fat from the cheese. The ratio matters. You can't just add a tiny bit of protein to a huge carbohydrate load and expect magic. As a general rule, try to have at least a quarter of your meal be protein, and ideally, half of your plate should be non-starchy vegetables for fiber. The remaining quarter can be your carbohydrates. This strategy doesn't mean you can never eat carbs. It means you need to eat them intelligently. Surrounded by protective nutrients that slow their absorption and moderate your blood sugar response. Comment below if you've been eating carbohydrates alone. Type carbs alone if this has been your pattern. Let's see how many people are making this mistake that's so easy to fix. Now we arrive at food hack number 3, and this involves a food that most diabetics have been told is dangerous, but is actually protective when used correctly. Food hack number 3. Eat healthy fats. Don't fear them. For decades, diabetics were told to follow low-fat diets. Fat was the enemy. But we now understand that healthy fats are actually protective for diabetics and can significantly improve blood sugar control. Let me tell you about Patricia, a 69-year-old woman with type 2 diabetes who had been following a low-fat diet religiously for 15 years. She ate fat-free yogurt, fat-free salad dressings, skinless chicken breast, egg whites only, no nuts because they were too fatty. She was doing everything she'd been told was right for diabetics. But her blood sugar was terrible. Her A1C was 8.5. She was on 3 medications. She was tired all the time. She was hungry constantly despite eating regularly. And worst of all, she was gaining weight. How could she be gaining weight on a low-fat diet while being constantly hungry? It didn't make sense. Her new endocrinologist suggested something radical. Add healthy fats to every meal, he said. Patricia was horrified. But fat will make my diabetes worse, she protested. No, he explained. The right fats will actually help stabilize your blood sugar. He told her to add olive oil to her salads, eat full-fat Greek yogurt instead of fat-free, include avocados in her diet, eat nuts as snacks, cook with real butter or coconut oil instead of cooking sprays, and eat fatty fish like salmon regularly. Patricia was terrified. She thought she was going to gain even more weight and her blood sugar would skyrocket. But she trusted her doctor enough to try it for 1 month. The results shocked her. Within 2 weeks, her constant hunger disappeared. She felt satisfied after meals for the first time in years. She had steady energy throughout the day instead of the crashes and fatigue she'd experienced before. And her blood sugar readings improved dramatically. After 3 months, her A1C had dropped from 8.5 to 7.2. She'd lost 12 pounds without even trying, without feeling hungry or deprived. Her doctor was able to reduce one of her medications, all from adding fat to her diet, the exact opposite of what she'd been told to do for 15 years. How can this be? How can adding fat, which is calorie-dense, help with both blood sugar and weight? Let me explain the mechanisms because this is counterintuitive and you need to understand it deeply. First, healthy fats slow down stomach emptying and digestion. When you eat a meal with adequate fat, that food stays in your stomach longer. It moves through your digestive tract more slowly. This means the carbohydrates in that meal get absorbed very gradually over hours, rather than rushing into your bloodstream all at once. Your blood sugar rises slowly and moderately instead of spiking. Second, fats don't require insulin for metabolism. Unlike carbohydrates, which need insulin to be processed, fats are metabolized through different pathways. This means they don't stress your already overworked insulin system. They provide energy and satisfaction without demanding more insulin secretion. Third, fats increase satiety dramatically. They trigger the release of hormones that signal fullness to your brain. When you eat adequate fat, you feel satisfied for much longer. You're not hungry between meals. You don't have cravings. You naturally eat less overall without feeling deprived. This is why Patricia lost weight despite eating more calorie-dense foods. She was eating less frequently because she wasn't hungry. Fourth, specific healthy fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids from fish, nuts, and seeds, actively reduce inflammation. Diabetes is fundamentally an inflammatory disease. High blood sugar creates inflammation throughout your body. This inflammation worsens insulin resistance. Omega-3 fats combat this inflammation directly, which improves insulin sensitivity. Studies support this. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care showed that diets higher in healthy fats and lower in refined carbohydrates improved blood sugar control better than traditional low-fat diets for people with type 2 diabetes. Another study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that a Mediterranean diet rich in olive oil significantly reduced diabetes progression and improved glycemic control. But this is crucial. Not all fats are equal. There are healthy fats that help you, and there are harmful fats that damage you. You must understand the difference. Healthy fats to embrace include extra virgin olive oil, one of the healthiest fats on earth, rich in anti-inflammatory compounds. Avocados, packed with monounsaturated fats and fiber. Nuts and seeds, especially walnuts, almonds, chia seeds, and flax seeds, which provide omega-3s. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, full of omega-3, EPA, and DHA. Whole eggs, including the yolks, which contain valuable nutrients. Full-fat dairy, which is actually associated with better metabolic health than low-fat dairy in many studies. Coconut oil in moderation for cooking. And even dark chocolate with 70% cacao or higher, which contains healthy fats and antioxidants. Harmful fats to strictly avoid include trans fats, found in many processed foods, margarine, and anything with partially hydrogenated oil on the label. These are poison for diabetics. They worsen insulin resistance, increase inflammation, and damage blood vessels. And excessive omega-6 fatty acids from industrial seed oils like soybean oil, corn oil, and cottonseed oil. Small amounts are fine, but the modern diet is massively overloaded with omega-6s, which promotes inflammation. The practical application is simple. Add a tablespoon of olive oil to your salads. Eat a small handful of nuts daily as a snack. Include fatty fish twice a week. Cook your eggs in real butter or coconut oil instead of cooking spray. Add half an avocado to your lunch. Switch from fat-free yogurt to full-fat Greek yogurt. These fats should replace some of your carbohydrates, not be added on top of a high-carb diet. If you add fats but continue eating the same amount of carbs, you'll just be eating more calories overall, which won't help. The strategy is to eat more fat and fewer refined carbohydrates, maintaining reasonable overall calorie intake. One important note, if you're on insulin or medications that can cause low blood sugar, improving your diet this dramatically can lower your blood sugar so effectively that you might need medication adjustments. This is good news, but it needs to be done with your doctor's guidance. Monitor your blood sugar closely and communicate with your healthcare provider. Comment if you've been following a low-fat diet for your diabetes. Type low-fat diet and let me know if you've been hungry and struggling. This information might change your life like it changed Patricia's. We arrive at food hack number 2. And this one involves a strategy that works 24 hours a day, even while you sleep. Food hack number 2. Walk for 10 to 15 minutes after every meal. This isn't technically a food hack, but it's a timing hack that dramatically affects how your body handles the food you just ate. A short walk after eating can reduce your post-meal blood sugar spike by 15 to 30% consistently. Let me tell you about George, a 77-year-old man with type 2 diabetes and severe neuropathy in his feet from years of poor blood sugar control. George's post-meal blood sugars were consistently high, spiking to 220, 240, sometimes even 260 after eating. His doctor had him on maximum doses of metformin and a DPP-4 inhibitor and was considering adding insulin. George was discouraged. He felt like his diabetes was winning. Then, during a routine appointment, his doctor mentioned something almost as an afterthought. Try taking a walk after you eat. Even just 10 minutes. It might help a little. George was skeptical. His feet hurt because of the neuropathy. Walking wasn't pleasant, but he was desperate. So he started taking a slow 10-minute walk after dinner every evening. Not fast, not intense, just a gentle stroll around his neighborhood. The first night, he checked his blood sugar 2 hours after dinner. Normally it would be around 230. That night, it was 195. Still elevated, but 35 points lower than usual. He thought it might be coincidence. He tried again the next night. Same result, down to 188. By the end of the first week, his post-dinner blood sugars were consistently 30 to 40 points lower than they'd been before he started walking. Encouraged, he added a 10-minute walk after lunch as well. Within a month, his A1C had dropped from 8.7 to 7.9. His doctor was amazed and asked what had changed. When George explained the walking routine, his doctor wished he'd emphasized it more strongly earlier. George kept it up. 6 months later, his A1C was 7.2. His neuropathy pain had actually decreased, and his doctor was able to reduce one of his medications. A simple 10-minute walk after meals had transformed his diabetes management. Why does this work so powerfully? The mechanism is straightforward but profound. When you eat a meal, especially one containing carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises as those carbohydrates are digested and absorbed. This glucose needs to go somewhere. It needs to be taken up by your cells. Muscle cells are one of the primary destinations for glucose. But if your muscles are just sitting there inactive, they don't need much glucose, and they don't absorb it efficiently, especially if you have insulin resistance. However, when you activate your muscles by walking or any physical activity, everything changes. Active muscles become glucose vacuums. They need energy immediately to fuel the movement. They open up glucose transporters on their surface called GLUT4 transporters. These act like doors that allow glucose to flood from your bloodstream into the muscle cells without requiring as much insulin. This means that glucose that would otherwise stay in your bloodstream, causing high blood sugar and requiring large amounts of insulin to eventually clear, instead gets pulled into your muscles quickly and efficiently. Your blood sugar spike is blunted. Your pancreas doesn't have to work as hard. Your insulin resistance matters less because the muscle contraction itself is driving glucose uptake. The effect is immediate and powerful. Studies show that a 15-minute walk after eating can reduce the post-meal blood sugar spike by an average of 25 to 30% compared to remaining sedentary. Research published in Diabetologia found that 3 15-minute walks after meals were more effective at controlling blood sugar than one 45-minute walk at another time of day. The timing is critical. The walk needs to happen soon after eating, ideally starting within 10 to 30 minutes after you finish your meal. This timing catches the glucose as it's entering your bloodstream from digestion. If you wait too long, you miss the optimal window. The glucose has already spiked, and while exercise will still help, it's not as effective as catching it early. The intensity doesn't need to be high. You don't need to jog or do intense exercise. A gentle, moderate-paced walk is sufficient. You should be able to hold a conversation while walking. If you're breathing so hard you can't talk, you're working too hard. The goal is gentle, sustained muscle activation, not exhaustion. The duration should be at least 10 minutes, ideally 15 minutes. Longer is fine if you have time and ability, but the biggest benefit comes in that first 10 to 15 minutes. Even 5 minutes is better than nothing if that's all you can manage. For people who can't walk due to mobility issues, other forms of gentle movement work too. Standing and doing simple movements with your arms. Seated exercises. Even just standing up and sitting down repeatedly can help. Any muscle activation is beneficial. The key is movement, not specifically walking. This strategy stacks with all the other food hacks. Imagine combining this walk with the vinegar before meals, eating vegetables first, pairing carbs with protein and fats. You'd be attacking high blood sugar from multiple angles simultaneously. The effects multiply. One important consideration. If you're on medications that lower blood sugar, especially insulin or sulfonylureas, be aware that this walking strategy can work so well that you might experience low blood sugar if you're not careful. Monitor your glucose. If you notice your blood sugars dropping too low, talk to your doctor about adjusting your medications downward. Again, this is actually good news because it means you're improving your diabetes control, but it needs to be managed properly. Comment below if you're going to start walking after meals. Type walking commitment so I know you're taking action today. This single habit could be the most powerful intervention you make. And now we arrive at food hack number 1. This is the most powerful strategy of all, the one that can have the most dramatic impact on your blood sugar. But it's also the most misunderstood. Food hack number 1, time-restricted eating. Specifically, eating all your food within a compressed time window each day. Also called intermittent fasting, this strategy can improve insulin sensitivity by 30 to 50% and reduce average blood sugar dramatically. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 73-year-old woman with type 2 diabetes for 20 years. Margaret had tried everything: multiple medications, different diets, exercise programs. Nothing seemed to give her the control she needed. Her A1C was stuck at 8.9. She was taking 4 different diabetes medications. She felt defeated and exhausted. Then she read an article about intermittent fasting for diabetes. The concept was simple. Instead of eating throughout the day from early morning until late evening, compress all your eating into an 8 to 10 hour window. For example, eat your first meal at 10 a.m. and finish your last meal by 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Then fast for 14 to 16 hours until the next morning. Margaret was nervous. She'd always been told diabetics need to eat frequently to avoid low blood sugar. Skipping breakfast seemed dangerous. But her current approach clearly wasn't working. She talked to her doctor, who was surprisingly supportive. "Your medications can handle the fasting period," he said. "Let's try it carefully and monitor closely." Margaret started with a 12-hour eating window, having breakfast at 8 a.m. and finishing dinner by 8 p.m. Nothing else changed. Same foods, same portions, just compressed timing. She monitored her blood sugar obsessively, terrified of dangerous lows. But the lows never came. Instead, something remarkable happened. Her fasting morning blood sugar, which had been 170 to 180 for years, started dropping. Within 2 weeks, it was 150 to 160. Within a month, it was consistently in the 130s. Her post-meal spikes became less dramatic. She felt more energetic. The brain fog that had plagued her lifted. After she felt comfortable with the 12-hour window, she gradually narrowed it to 10 hours, eating from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., then eventually to 8 hours, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. She was essentially skipping breakfast and eating lunch and an early dinner. After 6 months, her A1C had dropped from 8.9 to 6.8. Her doctor was stunned. He was able to eliminate 2 of her 4 medications. Margaret had regained control of her diabetes through something as simple as changing when she ate, not what she ate. Why does time-restricted eating work so powerfully for diabetes? Multiple mechanisms are at play. First, during the fasting period, your insulin levels drop to baseline. This is critical. Chronically elevated insulin, which happens when you eat frequently throughout the day, drives insulin resistance. When insulin is constantly high, your cells become deaf to its signal. But during fasting, insulin drops. Your cells get a break. They become resensitized to insulin. This improves insulin sensitivity dramatically. Second, fasting activates cellular cleanup processes called autophagy. Your cells literally clean out damaged components and regenerate. This includes cleaning up dysfunctional mitochondria, the energy factories in your cells. Better mitochondrial function means better glucose metabolism and energy production. Third, fasting shifts your body's fuel source from glucose to fat. During the fasting period, once your stored glucose is depleted, your body starts burning fat for energy. This metabolic flexibility is exactly what's lost in diabetes. Time-restricted eating helps restore it. Fourth, fasting reduces overall calorie intake naturally, without requiring you to consciously restrict portions. When you have fewer hours to eat, you generally eat less total food. This supports weight loss, which directly improves insulin sensitivity. Research supports this powerfully. A study in cell metabolism found that time-restricted eating improved insulin sensitivity, reduced fasting insulin, and lowered blood pressure in men with prediabetes. Another study in obesity showed that eating within a 6-hour window significantly improved blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes. However, Implementing this requires care, especially if you're on diabetes medications. Here's how to do it safely. First, talk to your doctor before starting. This is non-negotiable. If you're on insulin or medications that can cause low blood sugar, like sulfonylureas or meglitinides, your doses will likely need to be adjusted, or you could experience dangerous hypoglycemia during the fasting period. Second, start gradually. Don't jump immediately to a 16-hour fast if you're used to eating throughout the day. Start with a 12-hour eating window. Most people already fast for 10 to 11 hours overnight without realizing it. Extending that to 12 hours is just pushing breakfast an hour later, or finishing dinner an hour earlier. Once comfortable, gradually narrow the window over weeks. Third, monitor your blood sugar closely, especially at first. Check it when you wake up, before breaking your fast, and if you feel symptoms of low blood sugar like shakiness, sweating, or confusion. If your blood sugar drops below 70, break your fast and eat something. Safety first. Fourth, stay hydrated during the fasting period. Water, black coffee, and plain tea are fine and won't break your fast. They can actually help suppress hunger. Avoid anything with calories during the fasting window. Fifth, when you do eat during your eating window, focus on the quality strategies we've already discussed. Eat vegetables first, pair carbs with protein and fat, include healthy fats, take your vinegar before meals, walk after eating. Time-restricted eating amplifies all these other strategies. The most common pattern is 16-8, fasting for 16 hours and eating within an 8-hour window. For example, eating between noon and 8 p.m. But you can adjust this to whatever works for your lifestyle. Some people do 14-10 or 18-6. Find what's sustainable for you. One concern people raise: won't skipping breakfast harm me? Won't my metabolism slow down? The research shows the opposite. Skipping breakfast when done as part of time-restricted eating does not slow metabolism and actually improves metabolic health markers. The old advice about eating breakfast being essential for everyone has been challenged by newer research. However, some people genuinely do better eating breakfast and skipping dinner instead. If you prefer to eat from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., that works too. The key is compressing your eating window and having a long fasting period, not specifically which meal you skip. Comment if you're going to try time-restricted eating. Type fasting window and let me know your plan. This could be the game changer you've been looking for. Today, we've covered 6 powerful food hacks that can transform your blood sugar control. Vinegar before meals, eating vegetables first, never eating carbs alone, embracing healthy fats, walking after meals, and time-restricted eating. These aren't complicated. They don't require expensive supplements or special foods. They're simple strategies based on how your body actually processes food and handles glucose. My main message isn't to abandon your medical care or stop your medications. Please don't do that. These strategies work best alongside proper medical treatment, not as a replacement for it. My message is empowerment. You now have practical tools that you can implement immediately, starting with your very next meal, to take control of your blood sugar. You know that a tablespoon of vinegar before eating can reduce your spike by 30%. You know that eating vegetables before carbs can cut your glucose response by 40%. You know that pairing carbs with protein prevents dramatic spikes. You know that healthy fats stabilize blood sugar and increase satiety. You know that a 10-minute walk after meals pulls glucose into your muscles efficiently. And you know that compressing your eating window can improve insulin sensitivity dramatically. These strategies can stack. Imagine using all 6 together. The compound effect would be extraordinary. Your blood sugar would become more stable than it's been in years. You might need less medication. You'd feel better. You'd have more energy. You'd be protecting your eyes, your kidneys, your heart, your nerves from the damage that high blood sugar causes. Use this information wisely. Implement these strategies one at a time or all together, whatever feels manageable. Monitor your blood sugar closely. Work with your doctor. If your blood sugars improve dramatically, which they likely will, you may need medication adjustments. This is something to celebrate, but it needs to be done safely under medical supervision. And now I'm asking one final thing from you, and this is important. Share your experience in the comments. Which of these 6 strategies are you going to try first? Have you already tried any of them with success? What's your biggest challenge with blood sugar control? Your stories and your questions can help other viewers who are struggling with the same issues. This creates a community of people supporting each other, learning together, succeeding together. And remember, managing diabetes is a marathon, not a sprint. These strategies need to become habits, part of your daily routine, not just something you try for a week. But start today. Start with your very next meal. Every meal is an opportunity to make a choice that either helps or harms your blood sugar control. Choose wisely. If you haven't already, please join my free newsletter community. The link is in the description. I share detailed health information, updates on new research specifically about diabetes management, and answer questions from viewers like you. Plus, you'll be the first to know when my comprehensive diabetes and heart health ebook is released. It's going to be a complete guide with everything you need to know about managing blood sugar, protecting your heart, preventing complications, far more detailed than what I can cover in videos. Meal plans, exercise protocols, supplement guidance, medication information, everything. That first step you take today, implementing even just one of these food hacks, could be the beginning of getting your diabetes under control. It could be the difference between needing more medications or needing fewer, between suffering complications or preventing them, between feeling exhausted or feeling energized. The power is in your hands, literally on your fork. Final reminder, this information is for educational purposes only. I am not your doctor. Always consult with your personal physician before making any changes to your medications, diet, or diabetes treatment plan. Never ignore professional medical advice because of something you learned in this video. What I've shared today may not apply to your specific situation, and only your doctor who knows your complete medical history can give you personalized medical advice. Diabetes management must be individualized based on your unique circumstances. Take care of yourself. Monitor your blood sugar. Implement these strategies carefully and thoughtfully, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue this mission of taking control of your health together.